Welcome back to Take a Leap and Transform, a neurodiversity journey. I'm your host, Joseph K. Muscat. Are you ready to take a leap with me? Hey, listeners, it's been some time since I've last communicated with you. And I hope in future episodes, I'll be speaking to you more directly about my thoughts in regards to inclusion, diversity, and being a fellow neurodivergent. And at the same time, I'm currently cultivating new guest speakers who I'll be interviewing to come onto the show to speak about a variety of topics that I will be gearing towards neurodiversity. So, in the meantime, I want to share with you a conversation I had at a networking event a few weeks back. Every few weeks, I meet with some fellow neurodivergent professionals, and we talk about how we can make the workplace better and different ideas and concepts that can be talked about through our consultancies or spoken to our fellow neurodivergent community. And in one particular conversation, we were talking about the advocating for breaks and the importance of having a break. And it's at this point where I jumped in and said, to have this conversation, we need to start redefining what productivity looks like. And at the same time, this also means redefining what an average day works like. And this requires all parties, employers, managers, and the neurodivergents to come together and have this conversation. Because the workplace is changing. The workplace has been changing for quite some time. And obviously, in the last 5 years, we have seen that workplace even get more redefined and pushed towards that change. And at the same time, we're seeing this culture clash, what we can say, of how things were prior to the pandemic and how things are looking after the pandemic. When we're taking a looking at redefining productivity, in my opinion, we're looking at what works best for that individual and what is the balance that we can find for that individual and the workplace. And that again comes down to redefining what the workplace looks like. So let's go back and talk about breaks. Now, when we talk about breaks, the purpose of a break isn't just about giving them a 15-minute break or a lunch break to be able to grab a snack and then come back to work. It's also about recentering and refocusing one's ability to concentrate on a particular task that needs to get done in the workplace. And that means that, in my opinion, there needs to be more frequent breaks depending on the individual's ability to focus and concentrate, and as well, the ability to recenter and refocus. So when we're taking a look at an average workday and having more frequent breaks, what does that all look like and how can that balance be found? And let's be clear here, when we talk about taking a break, we're not just talking about going out for coffee or sitting outside, to get some fresh air. We're also talking about putting our energy maybe in a less strenuous task, such as replying to emails or making a particular phone call to a colleague or client, depending on how much energy is needed for that task. Let's take a pause here because I want to share with you not one, but two workshops I've put together to bring awareness and to up-level the skills of employers, managers, and human resources. The first workshop aids in building a more inclusive environment in the workplace for neurodivergent talent and in developing the skills of management to be more engaging with their teams. I geared the second workshop towards examining and providing practical solutions and how to be more inclusive to neurodivergent talent in the recruitment process. Reach out to me on my website to learn more about these amazing programs. That's just one example. Another example of that is how much energy can be given in a given workday, and looking and understanding what's the best time that an individual may work. So if that individual works best in the morning, but by the afternoon, they tend to lose their focus and energy, then perhaps focusing their time during that morning for the first 3 to 4 hours or 5 hours, and then the rest of the day can be quite different for them because they have done their work day. And that means that we're taking a look at, it's not about working 8 hours in a day. It's not about, that means in it, then it's not about working 8 hours in a day. It's not about working in an environment where someone's looking over your shoulder. It's about what the end product looks like, what that deliverable is, as we say in project management. So if someone works best in a 5-hour period and is able to produce that deliverable, then they don't need to work a full 8-hour day, do they? So that now requires managers and employers to come to an understanding of how can we redefine productivity and how can we redefine a workday and adapt to the best time periods and mentality of how that individual works. Now, in addition to that, this requires coming up with a clear definition, which obviously means we need to have clarity of what that defined productivity day looks like and what that defined workday looks like. And if there isn't clarity from the employer, from the manager, and even from the neurodivergent employee, then of course there's going to be a complete lack of clarity of what that all looks like. And then of course, all parties are going to be unhappy, and there's going to be low productivity and low deliverables, or low deliverables isn't the word to use. I would say that the end product will not turn out the way that has been defined and expected, or I should say expected because it may not be clearly defined. And when there's a lack of clarity and we overburden an individual because we don't clearly define what productivity and what a workday can look like, then that obviously leads into burnout. So which in, of course, in the end, that individual or individuals are not reaching their full potential and are not working in an environment that works best for them to be able to produce and be productive and to deliver that end product in an effective and efficient manner. So let's take a moment in all our workplaces and then individually as well. And let's understand what works best for us as an individual so that we can properly, clearly define for ourselves what that definition of productivity for us is and how that can be applied to what our workday can look like and redefining our workday. And let's start the conversation with our employers and with our managers. And on the flip side, employers and managers need to become self-aware and take a look at their places of work and do an assessment of their talent, do an audit of their employees to understand when they work best, how they work best, how to better support them, help and take a look at how you can redefine productivity and redefine the workday in your businesses to produce better turnover and better end product deliverables that will be to everyone's benefit. And then, of course, once again, requires all parties, employers, managers, and employees to have this conversation, start talking about it. And the best way to do that from an employer perspective and a manager perspective is for you to start having these conversations, to start speaking out loud, to not think internally or in a bubble. Because otherwise, then those conversations are not being had, and you are in this rut or limbo or having frustration in how productivity in the workday is going, because you are not having these out loud conversations that will encourage participation of all parties. Well, those are my thoughts in regards how we can move forward with redefining productivity in an average workday. And I hope it steers in you not only the self-awareness and the willingness to have these conversations, to create a more inclusive environment. Because that's what it is when we're looking at redefining productivity and we're looking at redefining the workday. We're looking at how can we make it more inclusive to ensure talent gets recognized and that we create the right environments where talent can thrive. And of course, in particularly, what this podcast is all about is to bring that awareness towards neurodivergent talent, to understand what their strengths are and understand how they work best. Hey, listeners, I encourage you to continue supporting this podcast so I can bring you more amazing content. You can do so by visiting my Patreon page, where you can connect with me more directly with several options. Till next time, take a leap and transform.